Hey, it's Fergie with recordingcrave.com. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I sure do appreciate it. This video I made for you today is actually a request from a subscriber on YouTube from one of my other videos. I have a video on mixing brass instruments, and he really liked the drum sound on that, and he asked if I would do a video showing how I got that drum sound. So here it is, this video. Let me give you a little backstory on it. It is a recording of a live performance of a band that does a lot of R&B, Motown type stuff, bands like Chicago, which this song is a cover of Make Me Smile by Chicago. And a fun band to record, a fun band to mix. And there's a lot of challenges when you do a live recording and go to mix it down and stuff. You basically have one chance to get it right on that live recording. You can't overdub, but we didn't on this, and there were some things that needed to be tweaked a little bit as far as fixing performance stuff, but other than that, it went really well. Now, it's recorded outside. The challenge here is when you have a live band, you have a lot of mics on stage that are open, always catching different sounds. Anyway, this isn't a video on recording live, but I kind of stepped into it a little bit. But let's jump in and listen to this, and I'll cover what I did here. Now, this was done a year and a half ago. If I went to remix it today, I might do something completely different. So this is what I did a year and a half ago, and let's take a listen to the song as it is.
Children play in the park, they don't know I'm alone in the dark, even though time and time again I see your face smiling inside. I'm so happy, whoa, that you love me.
Okay, that's a little portion of the song, basically a verse and going into the chorus there. And let's jump right into this, and I will show you what I did. Let me first start with what I do. These are my toms right here. What I do when I mix down the drum tracks on whether it's a studio recording or a live recording, and sometimes it's going to depend on the song. And I'll go through in here and separate each tom fill from where it's not being played. What this helps me do, let me zoom in here. What this helps me do is basically clean up my drum sound, and especially in this situation where you're playing with a lot of other live instruments around, this will help you get a cleaner drum sound and just have a better overall mix. So what I do is I separate each tom hit, and I'll bring this gain down, usually about anywhere from 6 to 8 dB, depending on what I feel like or what I think it'll sound. I do want a little bit of bleed to add some of that life to the mix, but I don't want it so much it starts affecting the sound of the toms, and it starts affecting the sound of maybe the vocalist that might be bleeding through the drum set or the guitars or whatever it is. Okay, so, and I'll go through and do this on every tom hit throughout the session. Now, this was a 3-hour session, so it took me a while to go through all of it and get it right. And you'll see some of my edits aren't real clean, like right here. That should be tighter up to the tom hit, but it is what it is. Sometimes I'll do fades, you'll see that, and sometimes I'll actually mute the whole section here. If I'm going for a super clean sound on the drum set, I will mute this section here where nothing's being played at all, and then mute every section where there's not a tom hit. And then I usually do a fade so it sounds clean as it goes out. But what I'm doing here on this live setup, it works very well. That's the first thing I wanted to get out of the way. Now, you may not do that. You may want all that ambient sound in the background and then ride the fader. That's fine too. That's just the way I'm doing it. Okay, let's jump in here. Now, I have basically a kick, snare, tom 1, tom 2, floor tom, and an overhead. And then what I do is I bust that down to a drum bus here, and I put the Sheps 73 and the Slate FG Red on here for a bus compressor. So one of my favorite bus compressors for the drums is the FG Red from Slate. It's got a great sound. Okay, so let's, knowing that, let me bypass all these plugins on the drums here. Well, first let's listen to the drums as they're with the processing, but just the drums soloed up. Okay, that's the drums for the intro section there. Now, I'm going to jump backwards here for a second here. When you are doing edits on around the toms, you have to be very careful and listen that you don't get any unwanted cymbal crashes that all of a sudden it's really loud and then it's quiet, or it's quiet and it's loud. That will mess up your mix very badly. I had a little bit of that in there, I heard right when I started, but when the mix is going, you don't hear it even with headphones on, and so you have to be very careful when you do edits like this that you keep it clean. Sometimes you might have to do a fade out of a tom hit so it blends in. So just a little word of caution there if you try that. Okay, so let's start with the kick drum, as I normally start with the kick drum when I do drums. So on this drum, because it was a live set and it was 3 hours long, or 3 1-hour sets, this one I actually started by actually putting an EQ and compression on the kick and got a pretty decent sound. But what I noticed was throughout the night, the kick sound changed enough to where it bothered me. So what I did, since I wanted a consistent kick drum sound throughout the whole night, I brought Slate's trigger in, and I'll show you what I have here. Now, the kick drum that I have on here is, I have about 10 kicks that I've actually recorded myself and that I like, that I'll often use for sound replacement when I need it. So this is called Bret Custom Kick number 2. And then what I did here was I added one of the room mics from one of Slate's recordings so I can get some room sound in it so it sounds a little more natural. So let's take a listen to just the kick. Now that's the kick with the room sound in there. Let me bypass the room sound. Okay, the room sound just makes it come alive a little more. Okay, now what I did after that was I put Chris Lord LG 3A on there as well. And basically I'm using this as a leveler. I could have used the limiter, but I didn't want to do that. Because sometimes the L1 will give it a certain sound, and I didn't want that. So I used the CLA 3A on here, and I put the peak reduction up there pretty good, about 5.5, and the gain up there. So it tightens up the sound, and then it just keeps the sound without changing it so much. So let's play that. Okay, so just tightens it up a little bit, and let's listen to the kick drum I don't remember if I played this already, but let's listen to the kick drum as it is without any processing. We bypass the Shep 73 down here, the FG red. Just gives it a little more punch. And let me just open this up real quick here. I'm kind of jumping around, sorry about that. This is basically just one of the presets in this Shep 73, and this is just called Mix, Widen, and Focus Stereo. You can see what it is here. I just left it as is because I liked it. It basically what it does is takes, especially my overheads, it'll take the ride and it will just boost that a little bit, and there you have it. And then the FG red, I'm using the CL Crystal LG rock setting, and I've tweaked it just a little bit, and it's probably a little bit more makeup gain on that. So, and not much, a little bit reduction there, so not a whole lot. Okay, now I do want to say, because it is a 3-hour show, and I'm going to just put this out there, my gain staging, I probably didn't adhere to my gain staging all the way through, because throughout the show I probably made tweaks to different songs as we went along and mixed them down and whatnot. So my gain staging is going to be off a little bit, so just beat someone to that punch. So I know how honest you guys are on YouTube, so I just want to get that out there. Okay, let's jump over here to the snare. Let's bypass all the plugins. Oh, I want to show you something real quick here. It's also on one of my other videos. If I want to bypass all the plugins up here at once, in fact, let's just do that. I select here, I push Shift, and then select here, and that'll select all those. And then what I do is push Shift and A, and it bypasses all the plugins I just selected for all these channels here. This happened in Pro Tools 11, and I'm in 12 now, and it's a nice feature. It was not in 10, and I wish they would have had it, because sometimes it's nice to bypass A and B your sound. So let's go to the snare here, and let's listen to that. Pretty good snare sound. Got a lot of hi-hat bleed in there, and that's okay. And I do want to say, when I showed up for this event here, it was questionable whether it was going to happen. It was an outdoor event, and it was raining most of the day, and then it cleared off in the evening, turned into a beautiful evening. But the gig almost got canceled, so I did not unload my recording equipment until I knew the gig was on and the rain had cleared away. And the PA was set up. They covered that with tarps and things like that. It's, you know, they can do that. But with the recording stuff, I didn't. So I had maybe a half hour, 45 minutes to do line checks on all the instruments, which is sometimes not enough time. The other thing I was going to get at is the sound company basically put the mics on where they normally put them on. And then what I did was took a splitter off of their snake and then ran it to my system so I could capture the audio unprocessed right to my system. So that's what happened there. So I'm at the mercy of where they place the mics on the drums, on the guitars, etc., etc. So here we are on the snare. The first thing I always usually will put on is an EQ, and my Shep 73 is my go-to EQ. I use that quite a bit. If that doesn't work, I'll jump to another one. So you'll see what I did here. At this high knob here is actually 12K, so I have about 2.5 dB of gain there. And then at 3.2K, I have about 1.5 of gain. And then at 220 hertz, I have about 2.5. You'll see I did some gain staging here, but I'm sure over the course of 3 hours, a lot of this has changed down the road somewhere. So let's just take a listen to this real quick. Very subtle, not a big difference, just a little more top end, it seems like. Let's jump to the CLA 76, which is my other go-to for compression. And my attack is really the slowest. You know, with these CLA 76s, 1 is the slowest and 7 is the fastest attack. And then on the release is the slowest or the fastest release, and then 1 would be the slowest release. So, and then you'll see where that's set at, and very subtle. It's not even moving the needle. Just the CLA 76 just has just a little bit of a sound. It's again, it's very subtle. You may not even hear it. I hear it, but it's very subtle. Then what I put on here is this clipper here from T-Rex, aka Multimedia. This I use on a lot of different things. I'll use this on snares. I'll use this on guitars. I'll use this on the master bus. It just has this thick sound without sounding muddy. You can make it muddy, but if you do it right, you get a nice thick sound. And again, this here it's subtle. I can make it not subtle, but I don't want too much. So here it's very subtle until I turn on one more compressor. But let's listen to this. Just adds this thickness to the bottom of the snare. Just when I mean bottom, I mean the bottom tonal characteristics. Okay, then what I did was I ran the CLA 2A just for a little more compression. I don't like to use all my compression on one compressor, so I'll spread them out a little bit. Obviously, pretty good gain boost right there. There goes my gain structuring. But the CLA 2A has its own sound too, and it sounds great. Now what I did for leveling was I put this L1 limiter on here. It changes the sound a little bit, but it does what I need it to do, and it keeps the sound consistent. Okay, now when I started playing this, I heard like a mid-range stick sound, or the way the stick was hitting the snare. There was a sound I personally didn't like. Now, when I was mixing this down, there was 2 guys from the band, and neither of them were the drummer. So I had a lot of freedom to do what I wanted here. Now, maybe if you're a drummer, you might like that stick sound as it is. When I was mixing it down, I took it out. So that's where I added this REQ, this R6 from Waves, Renaissance EQ, and I scooped that mid out of there that I didn't like. I'm a guitar player, but I'm passionate about recording drums and getting a good sound. But again, this is very subjective. This is what I did for this. Oops. So I'm going to bypass this. Again, that's subjective. You could have it either way. Maybe if you're a drummer, you like that. I just didn't want it in there. Or maybe I could go somewhere halfway in the middle and kind of add a little bit more into it. But that's what I did when I originally mixed this. So, okay, there is no hi-hat mic, so I did not have anything to do there. Now, Tom 1, let's just take a listen to that. Let's find a spot here for Tom 1. Okay, the only process on there is going to be the Slate FG Red and then the Sheps 73. What I did here was I added a Sheps 73. You can see what I did. I just added a little presence on the 12K, about 1.8. Just took a small 0.7 out, 700 hertz, about 2.2, and added some low end at 60 hertz right here. And high pass filter just left it as it is. And there's the preamp section there. And let me play that. Really just a very subtle move. I just showed it a little love and just helped it to stand out a little bit. And then I put the CLA 76 on there just to tame it a little bit. Okay, now on Tom 2 here, I have the Sheps 73 again, and I didn't do too much here at all. Let's listen to Tom 2 without the Sheps 73. Okay, there, some overtones on that. That's okay. 0.2 on the 12K. Scooped out a little bit on the 700 hertz, and then added a little low end to it. Nothing on the high pass filter. The preamp set there. And nothing too dramatic, just showing it some love again. And then the CLA 76, just taming it a little bit. Quite a bit of gain reduction there. And then I must have felt like at that time that I needed to scoop some more out for whatever reason. Then there's a small boost around 99 or 100 hertz. Here's that. Okay, I've been having the verb on here the whole time, and I should bypass that. Okay, so basically just some small moves. This REQ, I guess it did some drastic moves here. It's a -10 at 400 hertz, and just a small boost there. So there was some drastic cuts there, I guess. Now let's jump over to the floor tom there, and let me find a spot where that's being played. Okay, now let's turn the Shep 73 on, see what we have going on here. 12K, I have about 3.4 boost. Nothing going on in the mids. It's actually I have a cut at 1.6. There's a cut of about -4. And the 60 hertz here, I have about 3.2 increase. And the high pass filter I have set at 50, so everything below 50 is being filtered. Okay, and then the 76 here. Just touching it just a little bit. Not much at all. Could probably, actually it's not doing too bad. So sometimes those low toms can really ring out, but that one's not so bad. So let's listen to all that without the verb on there. Okay, now when I add the verb, sounds like a lot, and it is a lot, but when you start adding the other instruments in there, a lot of that verb gets sucked up, and you don't hear that is present. So let's jump over to the overheads. Now, I'm looking at this, and I'm like, why did I put the Chris Lord LG Signature Series on here? Maybe just because I wanted to use it. Sometimes I got a lot of plugins, and sometimes I just want to use them. So what I'll do is grab one, and this is his room sound, and not his overhead sound. For some reason, that's what I chose. So usually I'll go through several settings and pick one that works. Excuse me. And let's hear what I got here for overheads with, well, we'll bypass this. Okay, now let's turn it on. Right away I noticed that I have the verb on there, just a little studio verb that he has on there. And these are great plugins. If you haven't tried these, they work great on vocals, guitars, drums, and bass. Actually, the bass is another good plugin. It's just a great series. It's a workhorse series. It will do a lot of things, and they sound good. So, and what I did here, you can see I have a -1.4 on the treble and a -3.9 on the bass. And what I notice right away is that it cuts some of the harshness out of there. So let's. get this going here. Thins it out a little bit and takes some harshness out. So that's pretty much the drum set. Now, the Verb that I'm using on here, let's go down here, is another IK Multimedia product. It's the Verbs package they have. This is actually a really good Verb package. Let's listen to the whole kit as a whole here. So that's what I ended up with. Now let me bypass. There's no plugs. No plugs.
When you're near me.
Let's jump up to the end here. There's some nice drum fills at the end. This is a song, if I didn't say at the beginning, is a song by Chicago, a cover song called Make Me Smile.
Now I need you more than ever. No more crying. We're together. Tell me you will stay. Make me smile.
That's the song there. It's we skipped over some of the middle part, but you can see that there's some fun drum stuff in there. I could have automated the Verb at the end here, where it could have brought it down a little bit so it wasn't so strong, because it was almost maybe just a little too much at the end, but that's the way it was there. And also, it's a live recording, and you can hear that tambourine. That's the lead singer doing the tambourine pretty much right up by his vocal mic, and he does it a lot of times when he's singing. So you don't have a lot of control over some things when you're recording live, and you could probably have him come back in and track the vocal and a tambourine separately, but they kept it as is. So, but that's the nature of recording live, and I do a lot of it. It's fun. I enjoy it. Do a lot of live gigs. Most of them are indoors, but a few of them are outdoors. This is Fergie saying thank you so much. Love it if you subscribe to my page here, down here, and thanks for watching. Have a great day.